West Radio got to enjoy it, but I'm not sure about everybody else. But we have Jamal Hill, and Jamal has got a really special story, and seems like he's got a special heart. He is a #1 USA Paralympic swimmer, and basically started losing if I got the story right while I was going through all the tech problems, you started losing your legs at around 10 years old. You started feeling so if for the listeners who are listening now, Jamal, why don't you go ahead and share kind of the rudimentary things that happened to you when you turned 10 years old?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Happy to. Pretty much just 10 years old. I'm at Thanksgiving dinner, and my right arm falls asleep, right? We all know what that feels like when you lay on it too long. My left arm falls asleep. I'm like, okay, a little odd, no need to panic yet. My legs fall asleep. I can't pick up the fork at Thanksgiving dinner. We're at the family's house, and so, I whispered to my dad, hey, so something's not going on here. Something's not right. I can't move. And so they literally had to carry me. I couldn't even walk to the car. Skipped Thanksgiving dinner. I had to carry me to the car. We went to the hospital. They start running tests. I end up being admitted into the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And for about 3 days, I experienced a full-body temporary paralysis. That was a mouthful. Temporary paralysis across 3 days. So I was laying in a hospital bed, man. I could turn my head. I could nod it up and down. I could talk. But as far as being able to wiggle my fingers or even lift my legs, I did not have the neurological connection from my brain to my extremities to do that. That's in an inflamed state with my neurological disease that's hereditary and that, for whatever reason, kicked on when I was 10 years old. That's an inflamed state. That's as worse as it's ever gotten for me. After that 3-day period, I started to regain some of my bodily functions. But ultimately, I was left with, everyday life. I retained 30% nerve capacity from my elbows to my fingertips and about 0% nerve capacity from my kneecaps on down to the soles of my feet. So I describe it to people like, even though I'm a tall guy, I stand tall, I'm proud, but it feels like I'm standing like I'm walking on my knees. 6'4", I've never dunked a basketball, which is, it just kind of lends into that, I don't really have use of my lower legs. Let's see, also, right, this is a good one, right? I don't text in bed, not with the phone over my face. Like I said, I'm too pretty. I'll drop it. It'll smack me in the face. I don't have the best, tactile abilities because of that 30% in my hands. And then, like I said, that 0% in my lower legs.
Are you too pretty like Dave Clark was?
I don't know. Dave might have me beat, He's got the full shave. He's got the full clean shave, and he still looks great. I've tried the full shave. I've tried the clean face, and maybe I'm not old enough yet. I don't know what it is. It hasn't worked yet. So no, they've got me beat on that front.
Well, he's got some years. He's got some years. And so just as a trick, if you ever go like your hair just isn't there anymore, and you start getting some really big speaking
events, I know where this is going.
Speaking events, you make sure your business partner is always wearing a hat.
Okay.
So when he gets up to speak, it's typically, even if he's got a suit on, Jamal, he's got a hat on. Because he looks about 50 years younger when he's got his hat. Opposed to whatever. And of course, I'm talking about this man right here.
It's all about strategy. You got to have that strategy,
That's it, man. You got to do what you got to do. So, one other question on a serious note: what do they do for this limitation that you have? Are there any? Is there any research being done on it? Is there any medications that help? Take us in that direction a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Let me just start off by saying, by no means am I an expert on this. So that's just first and foremost. If anyone in the Charcot-Marie Tooth community watches this and is seeing this, I would definitely welcome you to reach out to me, allow me to learn more, but definitely reach out to the show host. Maybe they can provide some supporting information for anyone that's listening that needs that. But as far as today, 2021. There's no cure for this. Most of the therapies for it are actually water-based. Water is a great therapy. It is a great medium for retaining mobility. A lot of the people with Charcot-Marie-Tooth that I do know that can walk are actually avid swimmers. They're in the water, so I think there's a big therapy element there. There was a new trial drug coming out late, actually early 2019. There was a new trial drug coming out, but because of the pandemic and COVID-19, that noise kind of died down a little bit, and understandably so. We were all focused on one task and thing and an item there, one dilemma there. But that's what I would say the most thing is just therapy, attempting to build proprioception. So like one exercise is like, maybe there'll be 4 different buckets or pans, like one pan with sand in it, one pan with gravel in it, one pan with water in it, and then just one empty pan, and experiencing those different mediums, attempting to, again, increase proprioception. It doesn't necessarily, right, obviously rebuild any neurological connections, but it is definitely one of those things where I think if you don't use it, you'll lose it, right? So like however you are right now and however bad it may be, not doing anything will only make it worse, especially with a progressive degenerative disease. So, I'm one of those people. I think, we may not be able to stop time, but we can definitely slow some things down, so that's my little 2 cents on it. Just remaining as active as possible, setting physical goals, setting challenging goals, whether that be to stand on your own or to be able to uncurl your toes or to be able to maybe, use your leg braces a little bit less each day. There's only one way to really get stronger, and well, there's more than one way. But like obviously my point here is just trying to challenge yourself and keeping it simple. That's my 2 cents. I personally don't use any medications. I've used, natural things like B12s and things of that nature in the past that are supposed to increase energy and increase nerve capacity. And I remember at one point for about 6 to 8 months, don't do this, kids or people, don't do this at home. I was taking and these are not prescription medications, so the danger's not there, but I was taking 4 times the amount of dosage that the bottles say, and I just still was experiencing no difference. I wasn't experiencing any benefits that are described by other people. So for me, that stuff was pretty negligible. And so for that reason, again, I stay healthy. I drink a lot of water. I have a pretty clean diet. I'm not in love with sugar. That helps a lot. So that's it.
So I have a question for you, Jamal. I know in the radio session that unfortunately got, I think, lost on Facebook when the technology failed us. But you shared about your mom being kind of like the one person that pulled you along, and you can express that again if you want. But I was wondering, I know the story of Dave and Ernie Pound and Ernie Pound bringing the radio flyer wagon and rescuing Dave and all those things. What do you have a story that you can think of somebody pulling you along?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said on the radio portion, I definitely shouted out my mom, but we got a different audience here, so I'm gonna shout somebody else now. Now that mom has gotten her roses. I think a story that I have that's most similar to that red wagon story would be with my current coach, Wilma Wong. So just a small little pretext. 2016, I was a junior in college, swimming D3 competitive swimming with my disease, with my neuropathy. No one in my life other than my parents knew that I was living with this or dealing with this. I had a chip on my shoulder. I didn't want to be the guy with excuses, especially because no one could see me, right? I didn't fit into this stigma of disability. So as a junior, long story short, I decided I'm going to be a pro swimmer. Drop out of college, come back home. I was in Ohio, come home to Los Angeles to be a pro swimmer. Train with USC for a year, not much happens. Meet my current coach, Wilma, at a swim meet through a mutual friend, and we trained together for a year. And after about a year, one day she comes to me and she says, "Hey, look, I feel like you're not telling me something, Jamal. I have a background in healing. I have former patients that had cerebral palsy, different things, spinal cord injuries. I look at the way that you walk. I look at the way that you literally grab your leg and pick it up and put it back down to get in and out of the car. It just feels like there's something you're not telling me here. And, I get this goofy smile on my face, and I'm like, funny you should ask me. I actually do have this neuropathy, and this is how it affects me. And that was the first person that I had ever told about my limitations. And that was like 12 years, right? It happened at 10, and from 10 all the way to the age 22, I never told anyone about it. It was really just a family secret, and so I think in that way she pulled me along, because once she found that out, my vision and goal up until that point had been to go to the Olympics, right? Just the regular Olympics. It wasn't looking good, but as we know, Jamal's hard-headed, so it didn't matter. I didn't care if it took 10 years. Like, I'm one of those guys, when I set out on it, the journey of 1,000 steps begins with one, right? So you got to start.
So the whole time you're talking about you're being hard-headed. Dave Geis and I are talking and thinking, oh my gosh, Dave Clark, the most hard-headed person we might know in life. So Dave, I gotta at least, you gotta have a story of you being hard-headed that you can pull out of your repertoire of stories. Don't go silent on us. This is you can't go silent on us. Man, I've got him speechless.
You're talking about Dave, right?
I'm talking about Dave. I'm trying to get.
Oh, you're talking about me.
Yeah, I want a Dave Clark hard-headed story. You're on the hot seat right now.
A hard-headed story.
He's got so many stories, Jamal. And when you're talking about hard-headed, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, depends on what we can talk about here, what we can. A hard-headed story. Well, I'll go back to the story that I told. I think we can tell this, that I told a few weeks ago.
Big PG.
And it has something to do with swimming, Jamal.
Okay.
A group of us guys went over to one of the Finger Lakes. I grew up in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes area. And we go over to the lake on a Saturday afternoon, and we're all going to try to tube. We're going to tube.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd never really tubed before. And but being hard-headed, I said, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And so I took my brace off, and I've always swam. I've always been love the water. Taught myself how to swim, so that wasn't an issue. But being on a tube, and the guys in the boat, they're running the boat, and they're going, all right, we'll take it easy. We're not gonna open the motor up. We're gonna take it really easy with you guys, and first guy to tube and everything. So I get in the tube, not knowing what the heck I'm doing, and so the first 30 seconds we're being pulled at like 30 miles an hour, and it's cool, I'm hanging onto the tube, bouncing up and down, and then all of a sudden they open the boat up, and here I am. It's a Saturday afternoon, hot as heck, boats all over the place. 40-mile long lake, and all of a sudden my tube starts going boom, boom, boom on the water, and all of a sudden my pants go whoop. Now you got a white butt bouncing up and down, and now I talk about hard. I'm glad I was hard-headed, because I had two choices: either continue going on and hanging on for dear life while my butt's going up and down with no pants on the bottom, or I could let go. So I let go. Man, oh man. Let me tell you what, it's like doing barrel roll underwater. And and they left me. They went on up the lake, and they left me sitting in the middle of the lake naked. He came back like 20 minutes later. Hey, we didn't know we lost you. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a hard-headed story, but it is a funny story. So, He has a few more hard-headed stories, I'm sure, but one came up on Facebook, but I don't think we want to bring that one up.
Which one's that?
When you dismissed 5 guys for breaking a certain rule, when
Oh,
you owned the Indianapolis Clowns,
yes, yes.
Yeah.
and he wouldn't bend.
Well, I mean, do you call that a hard-headed story?
I don't know, maybe. Was it a line that was crossed?
I know, Jamal, you're in the sports world, so you know you got to follow rules. There's things you got to do, and protocols to be followed. And as a coach, every year once I went into the coaching realm, I would have a meeting at the beginning of the year, and I would tell the players the rules that I had at that meeting.
Okay.
And you're getting wet. Looks like it's raining out there.
No, I'm not. Maybe that's my camera. I need to wipe it off. No,
Okay.
I'm not getting wet.
All right. There you go. So anyway, one of the rules I had was absolutely no drugs.
Mm-hmm.
No drugs at all. And I mean, zero tolerance. And the players knew, if they did that and were caught, they knew the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So this was, I think it was 1984. Is that correct, Dave?
Well, this story might be, but I remember another one in 85.
I think it was 85, Dave.
It could be 85, but anyway, I went out after a game. You were talking about having dates with girls and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, after a game in Jasper, Indiana, I had a date with this fine-looking young lady, and we went out, and we came back to the hotel. And
I don't remember that ever happening. I don't know.
And so we get back to the hotel, and my assistant coach comes up and says, he's all upset. He goes, "We just caught 5 of the guys, smoking weed," and what are you going to do? I said, "What do you mean? What are we going to do? They're gone. They're gone. That's the rule. They're gone." Well, we were going to be on Charles Kuralt.
So it was 84.
We were going to be on the CBS national program in a week. And the guys that were guilty were the starting catcher and 4 starting pitchers. 2 of them had been at the AA level. So my assistant coach is going, "We can't do that. We can't do that. We're on national TV in a week." I said, a rule's a rule. A rule's a rule. And if we bend that rule now, the tail's going to start wagging the dog. We lose all credibility as coaches, as leaders, if we bend that rule now. Bottom line, all 5 guys were brought in the next morning, and I looked them all in the eye and I said, "Every one of you guys is guilty." They all admitted it. I said, "Here's your bus ticket. Get your uniforms, turn them in. Bus ticket, we'll take you to the station. You're gone." Got a little kickback from some of them. I didn't care. That was my rule. If you call that being hard-headed, I call that being a leader.
And it would be a lot different today, Well, it's actually not a lot different today, but it would be a lot different today because the perceptions of
Right.
marijuana are very different. And we've actually had a Major League Baseball player with the Twins who in his minor league days was suspended for marijuana use, but he was using it as a painkiller. And he didn't want to use the Vicodins and all the other stuff that was given. So his perspective was very, very different. And I think they're beginning to look a lot differently at marijuana today than they did in 1984. That would have been 1984, right, guys?
That happened again in 85 too, but instead of sending people home, he just had them run for hours and hours and hours.
Oh, so it happened in 85 as well?
It happened in 85. There was a couple guys too that refused to clean their uniforms that got sent home.
That was from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yes. They
went like you had a thought about all of that.
They went from Michigan on a bus trip all the way down to Florida.
Yeah,
because they wouldn't clean their uniforms.
Oh
But
my God.
anyway,
Wow.
let's
Well,
get,
no,
let's
I'm
get
sorry. No. They wouldn't put them on because they
correct.
were doing it.
The pregame shirts.
Yes, the pregame shirt. They
And
wouldn't wear them.
Arnie and Ramon.
Yes,
Ernie and Ramon.
yes.
It
Arnie
looks
and
like you
Ramon.
had a thought. It looks like Jamal had a thought about when we were talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
I was just gonna say, like, in the States it's changed, but swimming on the highest level is an international sport. So there's the same. I mean, well, I guess alcohol is never considered a drug or is not a part of most even countries' drug clauses or anything like that. But even going over to hopefully going to Tokyo, Japan for the Paralympics in a few months. Obviously marijuana is not allowed there, but like there's even things that are prescription medications here in the States that are not allowed there, and that will not only get you banned from competition, but will get you jailed. Even with the doctor's prescription, even with your medical exemption and all these things. So it's definitely. A lot of change definitely here states, I think around the whole world. But I mean, just mind you, again, for international Olympic and Paralympic athletes, it's that same, like what you said, the rules are the rules, So like if you are caught breaking those rules, they got much more tests now than just did you do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
like, you're caught breaking those rules, it's more than just kicked off the team. It's like, adios to competition for the next 2 to 5 years, which is a high price to pay,
Absolutely.
for anything. So that was my thought.
so when
Just to follow up on that story, when Carol joined us,
Mm-hmm.
we got hammered. We looked terrible. We had to get 5 guys.
replacement.
We held a tryout in
Yeah.
Corning, and we signed 5 guys immediately to fill the roster out.
Now you see, you should have told me. I would have showed up for that too.
He didn't want you, Dave.
Really not.
See, Jamal, what you don't know is Dave has a lot in you. Dave, I don't know if he was introduced, but Dave is a teammate and a former co-owner with me.
No
with
kidding.
Okay. But what you didn't hear is that Dave tried out for the team in 83, 84, and 85, and he got sent home 2 of those 3 years, but he kept coming back for more. and he finally made it.
They kept moving the camp from state to state, so I wouldn't find them, but I tracked them down.
That's the key. That's the key, right?
You
You can only know so many times,
Yeah, right. Jamal, I have a
When
question.
I hear your story, Jamal, it does hit home. That little and an ex-girlfriend corrected me when I told her that the muscle between your ears is the most important muscle of the body, and she told me that's not a muscle. I said, well, for my purposes, it is.
Amen to that.
But that little muscle is more important than anything else.
Absolutely.
All right, we got to wrap up. I have one more question for Jamal before he needs to. Whoa, who's throwing stuff at you? They're telling you got to leave.
We got the dogs in the back, so they're getting fed right now. They're having a good time.
You let the dogs out, right? So one question. Then we can wrap up with this question because I know you got to get out of there and still in the middle of the day for you. We're winding down our day.
Evening, I'm winding down here, so it's still about 5:30.
Yeah, well, so you still got some time to have some fun and do some nice things. It looks beautiful out. So, what are your thoughts on what they're doing with the Olympics and the Paralympics and basically banning any of us from going that aren't?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like with respect, I'd like to believe that there are people far smarter than me that are organizing that and making those decisions. So above all, sport is a great avenue. Sport is a great equalizer. Sport is a great platform for change and for peace. But sport isn't more important than people's lives. Sport is not more important than the safety of the athletes, of the home country, of the travelers. So with that regard, I think it's a responsible decision. Especially especially considering how the inhabitants, mind you, Tokyo, right? Tokyo, Japan is just one of the chain of islands. So that's an island. The inhabitants of that island, how they feel about it, to be able to take those people's thoughts and concerns into mind and find a compromise that will hopefully, right, still allow athletes who have given, their lives in so many cases to this sport for the last 5 years, the opportunity to perform and reach those goals. I think it's a step in the right direction. And even still, it's a gamble, I know that there's, new science and technology, and, it seems like, I don't know where you got, I don't know exactly what state each of you are in, but like California, people are starting to get real relaxed. Like I know Texas is super relaxed right now. But when we think about an island, again, mind you, when we think about an island and we think about how many, 85 countries on this planet, we think about representatives from 85 countries coming to one place with their own coaching and staff, plus, likely, visitors from at least half of those countries coming to this one place, and having that happen 2 times over within the span of 2 months, right? Because it goes the Olympics and then the Paralympics. It's a hell of a task. It's a hell of a feat. So I think it's a responsible decision, and there's still nothing guaranteed. They could start the Olympics and God forbid things don't go great, and it becomes a dangerous situation. Well, obviously the Paralympics would have to be canceled, right? If there's an outbreak or something like that. And so, that's my 2 cents on it, man. Obviously not obviously, but I'm a planner. We're my team, we plan. So we have some great things planned around Tokyo happening and me being there, both as an athlete and as an organization. We do everything we can do. We're grateful for the opportunity, and you just got to operate off of faith at some point. Like whether it happens or not, for me, and my people, like it's not the end of the world for me. There's 2024. I plan on being LA 2028. Like I said, I'm a millionaire, but I count the people's lives that I save as opposed to dollars. So I'm living in fulfillment. I'm living a good life. People around me, I love beautiful weather, swimming in pools all the time. So I don't know. I don't really know. I know I answered the question there, but
yeah, that was great. It's I don't know if there's right or wrong answers for stuff like this right now. It's just it's disappointing from a perspective for the people that want to go, and I think it can be disappointed for the athletes because you feed off of the crowd,
energy, right? Like you get riled up. That energy. Listen, the first time I walked into a stadium with 80,000 people, you feel that energy for sure. Right. Like I'll never forget that. So this was going to be my first official Paralympic Games. I've competed at large international competitions, 80,000 fans, but this was my first. This is the show, right? This is the show that happens every even number of 4 years, right? So, it's disappointing, but it's like, again, man, it's all relative to me. Like, that could be a disappointment, but what if my parents came there and they got sick, That would be a much bigger disappointment. So it's all relative, and I think, like I said, I think, humbly, I think that the people that are organizing it, they're very smart. They're attempting to think everything through this, what would be a seemingly impossible problem. And in some regard, it's my responsibility as an athlete and advocate of the Paralympic movement to place my trust in that process and really support that.
That's great. So, we've loved having you on here. Sorry about the little technology glitch that happened. Hopefully the Milwaukee people on the 104.1 River Wrestle Radio loved it, but we'd love to have you back again. We're so glad that you're part of the Pulling Each Other Along team. And one of the things that you said earlier, you said you're entrepreneurial. So I'm hoping you're going to help us sell a whole bunch of books too. So that's
listen, we're in it together. From what I've heard, you all have had a great strategy, and I'm just happy to be a part of, to be a leg in the race, So we're definitely a team. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we're glad you're a part of the team.
Thank you for being on with us. Really.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dave, pleasure to meet you. Right, you read about people.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying, Clark? You read about people, but it's like to meet you guys and to see the faces and to really just feel the energy of all of you in this space. it just makes me more proud of the decisions that my team makes on our behalf, and that we make to be connected with such great minds and movements.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you. This has been the Pulling Each Other Along show with Jamal Hill, Dave Clark, Dave Geis. Thank you. We can give one real quick goodbye when we take Jamal's picture off. Everybody that's out there on Facebook, sorry for not getting on right at whatever time it's supposed to be in your area, but 7:30 Eastern time. And Jamal, again, it's just been great to know you. And I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to everybody on Facebook.